folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our book for today is The Neverending Story by Michael Ende, or Ende. My apologies in advance if I butchered that. Now, there is fighting, killing, danger, and magic in this one, so if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, here I'll put who translated it from German to English and who drew the cover. Okay, and this is published by Firebird Fantasy. Never heard of that publisher, I think. But yeah. Alright, and yeah, like I said, this is the English translation from German. So, I think quite a lot of people have heard of the Neverending Story. There have apparently been two movies. I looked it up. One in the, what was it, 70s and another one in the 90s. I never watched either, but I have heard of the Neverending Story. Well, I heard the title of the book anyway. I've never known what it was about, but I just always heard the title. And I somewhere have the book in the Hebrew translation. But once I knew there was an English one, a few years ago, I think, I decided to get an English one instead, because usually it's much better in English than if you read from other languages to Hebrew. At least for me. But yes, I don't remember where I got this copy. But I'm glad I did. The cover is very, very pretty. Look at that. So yes, let's get into the story. So the story is about a young boy about the age of 10 called Bastian Balthazar Bucks. He's not a popular kid. He's fat, timid, scared. And one of the only things he's really good at is making up stories for himself all the time. So one day he runs away from school bullies. It's raining and he runs into a bookshop by a man called Carl Carson something. His name is also has got three, consists of three C's. His first name is Carl, and then the other two, the middle name and surname also start with the C. So like Bastian as well. So he goes into the shop. He's dripping with water. And the old man doesn't like kids to be in there, and he's all grumpy. And then Bastian notices the book that he's holding. It's a copper leather bound book. It's very beautiful. It's got two snakes entwined on it in circles. Each is biting the other's tail. Suddenly, the man gets a phone call, goes to the back room, and Bastian steals the book. He feels an incredible pull towards it. And he has to take it, and he grabs it. And then he runs, and he thinks, oh, that's it, I'm a thief, I have to hide now. He goes to his school. He once helped the janitor take something to the attic, so he knows where the key is. He takes the key, goes up to the attic, locks himself there, and sits down and starts to read. He reads what is called the Neverending Story. It's about this land, which is, at least in English, it's called Fantastica. And it's like one ruler is the childlike empress, or the golden knight commander of wishes. So she's the empress, and everyone obeys her because she never intervenes. She doesn't care if you're good, bad, ugly, beautiful, it's all the same to her. And Sebastian begins to read the story. The childlike empress in the story is sick. And Fantastica is dying because of that. And so, one of the 100 healers that are sent to the ivory tower where she resides, it gets the pendant called Orion, which is her symbol, and allows him to carry out her commands. He goes and finds a young boy named Atreyu from one of the people of Fantastica. And he's then sent on a journey to find a cure for the childlike empress, find an answer to her disease, mysterious disease. And so he goes on his adventures, loses his trusty horse on the way. All the creatures here can talk, even animals. There's a lot of fucking creatures in the story. So yes, Bastian, meanwhile, back in the real world, is reading about all of this, about all of Atreyu's adventures and misfortunes. Because when something disappears in Fantastica, it becomes like a blind spot for everyone. Along the way, he meets a luck dragon. It looks like this in the illustration here, you see. Atreyu does, and then they go together and they end up finding out what is need to be done. The childlike empress needs a new name. So because she doesn't really age. She stays the same, she just needs a new name, and once she receives one, she'll be all better again, so the rest of Fantastica. And Atreyu finds that out through where he goes, but then he doesn't know what to do, because the only one that can give her a new name is a human. And, Bastian, meanwhile, back in the real world, is really just like, holy shit. She needs a name. I could give her a name. And so Atreyu, after a long and tiring journey, finally reaches the childlike empress and apologizes that he couldn't, complete his task. But she tells him, no, you completed it. Because his whole task was to go on this journey and have Bastian read about it. And then they talk on how there is someone like that, and he needs to come forth into Fantastica. And Bastian's like not believing it, but then they say his name, and he's like, it's me, they need me to go in there. And the only way for him to do it is if he says Moonchild's, I already told you the name, the childlike empress's name, Moonchild, which is what he comes up with for her. And he has to say it out loud, but being as he is, he's very timid and scared, and he's not sure if he wants to do it. Bastian's life is, when he was younger, much younger, his mother died. And his father has secluded into himself. He's a technician of dentists, I think. He builds casts and everything for teeth. And it's not that Bastian is not cared for. He has everything he wants, but he, doesn't have a relationship with his dad, really. He feels all alone. He's bullied in school. And he feels that he's, not worthy because he's pale, he's fat, and, he's not popular. But then the childlike empress thinks there's only one thing she can do to maybe get Bastian to come. And so Atreyu and his luck dragon, Falcor, his name is, at least again in English, they are sent somewhere to be healed after their long journey. And then the childlike empress goes on a journey of her own to the men of the mountain. He's the opposite of her in everything. And what she ends up doing is she's making him read. He writes everything that happens. She makes him continue to reread the story all over and over again. And because only that'll make Bastian come. If he notices that the characters, everything will keep repeating itself forever. So eventually Bastian yells, Moonchild, and that's it. He's transported to Fantastica. And he meets the childlike empress, and she asks him, why didn't you come earlier? And he said, well, I thought you'd be, embarrassed of me, ashamed, because I'm not in any way impressive. And he said, oh, what do you mean? This is how I see you. And he looks in her eyes, and she sees him, he's this handsome young boy, he's well built and everything. And then he becomes that, and she gives him Orion. Arian. She gives him. Sorry about it. She gives him the pendant. He ends up with the pendant. And on the back of it, which Atreyu couldn't read, but it says, "Do as you wish." So that's it. Bastian is left to his own devices, and he keeps making wishes that he was the strongest and the bravest, that he had no fear. But what he doesn't know is that each time he makes a wish like that, he loses a memory from the real world. And things continue, and he finds Atreyu, and he's happy, and they can be friends and everything. But as the story progresses, he becomes more and more, he wants to be the greatest, beloved. And it keeps getting worse because his wishes push him down a path where he wants to rule Fantastica. And along the way, they come across an evil sorceress that tries to manipulate him so she can use him to gain power. But he is, and not saved. That's what happens to him. And then Treyu tries to intervene by stealing the pendant. Well, it tries. He tries, but the sorcerer sets him against Atreyu, and it succeeds because they are now at odds. And he tells him go away, and Bastian goes to the ivory tower, goes in there, but the childlike empress is not there. She is gone from there, and he takes over, and he's going to now be the emperor of Fantastica. And her advisors are at loss, like, shit, what do we do? But what can they do, really? He has Orion, they have to obey him. So as it comes time for the carnation, or what do you call it? Yeah, the crown him, is discovered that Atreyu has gathered a rebellion, gathered rebels to fight him. And so that's what they do. They manage to break in with the army. Atreyu gets all his people, the Greenskins, as well, to do it. And so a great fight starts. The beautiful maze that was in front of the ivory tower gets destroyed. Things become bloody and terrible. And Bastian and Atreyu come face to face. And Atreyu's like, come on, Bastian, give me back the pen, give me back Orion. And he holds his sword to Bastian's chest, but he can't use it against him. And then Bastian uses a magic sword that he has and wounds him. Atreyu falls, but Falkor, his luck dragon, saves him and takes him away. And then Bastian, in his anger, just loses it and goes straight after them, leaving all of his people to chase after him, but they, of course, don't reach him. And he ends up in a city. It's a city of all the humans that have came to Fantastica, but they lost all of their memories. And they're just like lobotomy patients. They just stand there wearing weird clothes and just picking up stuff, but they don't die. They're not going to die, they're going to grow old. They're just always the same, just walking around, picking something up, forgetting, going again. And there's a monkey there that keeps watch over all of them. And he tells Bastian that if he wants to leave, but he can't take Orion off, or else he will become like that immediately. So he leaves. He has to drink from what was it called? The water of life. It was called, from the fountain of life. Yeah, he has to drink from that in order to be able to go back to his home. Along the way, he meets this flower lady. She's made out of flowers. And she also helps him. He stays with her a long while. Then he keeps going, and he reaches the place where he can find because he doesn't remember anything, and he needs to know how to love in order to drink from the fountain. But not just love, he needs to love a particular person, but he doesn't remember anyone. So after a few weeks in this mountain, a cold mountain, with a mind full of memories and stories that have been for no memories it was in dreams with a monk that's there, he manages to find a memory of his father. And so he goes, but then some creatures of Fantastica that he changed, trying to get him to fix them, but he can't. And in the kerfuffle, the memory breaks that he had. And he's thinking it's all lost now, but then Atreyu and Falkor appear, and then they are transported to inside Orion. It's this place that gives the childlike Empress all of her powers, but she cannot set foot inside of it. She's the only one that cannot. And so he reaches, the two big snakes are there, and only Falkor can understand what the water is saying. And the water doesn't want to let Bastian drink it. But then Trey vouches for him. And so he drinks it and he remembers everything again. And all this time he had his way back. He needed Orion to go back. And Falkor and Atreyu were already in that place before. The childlike Empress has sent them there to be healed. And she cannot go there on her own, of course. But apparently she can send someone in. So that's it. Then Bastian wakes up. They go their separate ways. Bastian takes the dark snake. See the dark snake here? And through his portal to leave back to Fantastica. And Bastian takes some water for his father and goes back to the real world. Then he wakes up, he's back in the attic in the school, and he can't find the book anywhere. And he's like, oh man, how long has this been? You know, has it been years? Will I, then, okay, I'm going to go down to the school, and if I can't recognize the students, then I'll know what's going on. He goes down, but there's no one there. The halls are empty, everything's closed, the janitor's not there, and he's like, how am I going to get out? And then, because he's changed, even though he remembers everything, and he was turned back to how he looked after he went, before he could go into the water, he is not the same. He's now brave. So he gets up to the second floor and goes down on like a railing of some sort. He goes down on with that. I think it's where probably where the rainwater's probably collected, I think. So he manages to get down, and then he goes home. And at first he hesitates. He's like, well, what if my father's not there anymore? But then the door's open, and his dad is there. And Bastian runs to him, and his dad hugs him. And then he takes him to the kitchen and gives him breakfast. And his dad is so happy to see him. And Bastian spends the whole day telling him everything that happened. And then he learns that he was just gone one day. Again, in the morning, he stole the book. He went back and basically read until midnight. And probably the whole night he was in Fantastica, even though it probably, and all the time that it was told, it's probably been a few years that he was there. I guess his father said, I got a call from school, you never came, they said you didn't arrive, and then I called the police, and I was so worried. So yeah, Bastian tells his father everything, the whole full story. His father takes a break to call the police. And then in the end, his father tells him things are going to be different now between us. And Bastian's like, oh, I managed to bring some of the water to him after all. Because he didn't have anything to gather it in, so he just took some in his hands. And obviously that would have spilled out. yeah, that's it. Things are gonna be different. So the next day, his dad's gonna stay home and tells Bastian that he will as well, and they'll spend the whole day together. And Bastian's very happy about that. And said, "But wait, Dad, I have to go and talk to the bookshop keeper." As I and his dad's like, "I'll tell you know, I could talk for you," and he said, "No, Dad, it's my responsibility." And his dad is very impressed with him as he's going to handle this on his own. So he goes to the bookshop, enters, and tells Carl, the owner, "I'm sorry I took your book. Sorry I stole your book." And then it turns out that Carl's actually also been Fantastica before. And that there are other ways to get into Fantastica, and other people have done it, but very few manage to come back. Unlike Bastian. And Carl tells him, you must come here and we'll share our experiences and talk about it. Because Bastian tells him but a shorter version of what he told his dad. He ends up spending there like 2 hours, and he promises to come visit him. And then he leaves the shop, and his dad is waiting for him out there. And that's it. The story ends for now, anyway. This is the never-ending story. Okay, so this is a very lovely cover. I love this art. Like this one here are some creatures that are mentioned in the beginning of the book, but then we don't see them again at all. And I think this is supposed to be Bastian, because it doesn't look like how Atreyu is described. But that's definitely Falcor. That's, like I said, a lovely cover. Oh, so this story has been really great. It's a really cool adventure, I thought. In some points, I did know felt like it was a little bit dragging with the whole, because sometimes sections would end, but it's a story for another time, because, well, the never-ending story. But I really enjoyed it, and it's sad to see, but also it's kind of a little boy learning, sorry, sirens, little boy learning a lesson. Not a lesson, but yes, learning to accept himself and to improve as well. And in there, because in the end, he gets to start improving his relationship with his father. And they have a bad relationship, but since his mother died, his dad kind of was very distant from him and had heard Bastion. And now things will finally be different for them. And just the whole concept was very interesting. As at first, as it was nearing the end, I thought, oh, is this have all been, just read the book? I thought, oh, maybe he fell asleep and, he dreamed all of this and then he just woke up in the morning. But no, it was actually there. So that was very neat. I can see why this was so popular, though. I imagine for the movies, they probably done something a little different because all things considered, I just don't think all of this in here would have made for a coherent short movie. I think, but oh well, it is what it is. Yeah, with the movies, I mean, I might have to at least check out one of the movies because I'm kind of curious what they would have done with the plot. What they would have taken and what they wouldn't have taken. Because again, it's still quite a long one. I haven't detailed all of the adventures, obviously. But in the end, there, Batshit, after he swims in this water and drinks it, he comes out naked. So I'm certain that they did not include in the movies. I wonder what they did do. But anyway, this has been a good read. I'm glad I finally read this one, and now I know what the never-ending story is about. And maybe I'll watch the movies. But yeah, that is it. If you like fantasy, I think you might like this one quite a lot. Definitely got a lot of fantasy in it, a lot of interesting creatures. Alright, folks, that is it. Let me know if you've read The Neverending Story, and what did you think about it if you did. Now remember, collect what you're passionate about and share it on YouTube. Bye!